Hi everyone, so welcome to Mindful Bites. This is an opportunity for quick professional learning for counsellors, those that work with young people, particularly in a mental health space, teachers, educational support officers. We are all very busy people, and sometimes it's really hard to find time for professional learning. That's why I wanted to offer these bite-size seminars or episodes so that it's a case of tune in for half an hour or so and then continue on with your other work. Hopefully these are filled with really practical things that you can take away from this session and use straight away, yeah, in your particular context. All right, today's Mindful Bites is about ACT, and it's the ACT perspective on anxiety. So ACT is, of course, what I'm referring to is acceptance and commitment therapy. All right, we often know a fair bit about anxiety as professionals. I don't want to give a whole lot of information about anxiety because that's not really the purpose of this session. The purpose is to provide an ACT perspective. All right. I will provide some information on anxiety, though, just as a little bit of a introduction, essentially. But the focus really wants to be on, well, how does ACT, how does practicing ACT actually support people moving through anxiety? And of course, the focus group here, because we are working with young people, the focus here is for children and adolescents. Okay. However, ACT is, of course, a form of therapy that's used across the lifespan. All right. So hopefully it won't be death by PowerPoint. It is a PowerPoint, but I'll try to keep things moving so it is as interactive and as interesting as I can for you. Okay, let's get started. So first of all, I'm Michael Lana, and I'm the Managing Director at Edge Counselling and Psychotherapy Adelaide. We're currently located at Salisbury, 55 Park Terrace. However, we are moving soon to Mawson Lakes, okay, but more information about that at another time. Okay, we work alongside, although we are not actually affiliated, but we do work alongside the Sunshine Kids Clinic, the big yellow sign if you've driven past on Park Terrace before. A little bit of information is all there with regards to me and what we offer at Edge Counselling. Please, if you want to get in contact, please give me a call. Okay, so learning intentions for today, we'll develop a understanding around anxiety, the various symptoms. We will just revisit that. The symptoms that are neurological, physiological, and the psychological aspects of anxiety. But we want to move into deepening our understanding or our insight into the role of acceptance commitment therapy for supporting individuals who are managing their anxiety related symptoms. Okay, so that's what we're hoping to learn about today. Trigger warning, I do know that often conversations around mental health and those topics, mental health, supporting people with mental health, they can be really triggering. They can be challenging for people. Or please look after yourself. Look after your own. Be mindful, essentially, of your own self-care. Okay. Please give me a call if there's anything that you would like to chat about further. Okay, so what we're going to do is, first of all, a little bit of a rundown around anxiety disorders, first of all, and what essentially what we're talking about here is the keyword being disorder. Okay. Sometimes we can have anxiety without it necessarily being an anxiety disorder. In fact, quite often we can have anxiety about things, but it's something that we're able to move through and manage, and it doesn't really significantly impact on our day-to-day living. Okay. Sometimes it does though, and many people might go about their daily business, um, experiencing anxiety. All right, let's just um, let's just have a look at some of the factors here. So anxiety. Anxiety disorders are those that are they share different features. So different anxiety disorders might include mutism, separation anxiety, phobias, and so forth. And what they all have in common is excessive and persistent fear and anxiety. All right, and alongside that sits the behavioral disturbances. All right, fear is the emotional response, whereas anxiety is the anticipation of future threat. Okay, so that's quite important. Anxiety is often a concern for the future. Alrighty. Um, it can manifest as a fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response, which is essentially the automatic, or more precisely, the autonomic nervous system is responsible for that. Okay. There can be thoughts of immediate danger. People can want to escape their anxiety. There might be cases where people, in fact, it's very common where people try to avoid situations that might lead to anxiety or muscle tension, panic, and of course that can flow into another significant mental health condition, which involves panic disorder or panic attacks. Okay. Remember that anxiety disorders differ from just being afraid of something. All right. It is that excessive and persistent fear. Alrighty. Um, the the research would suggest that anxiety disorders are more common in females than males. However, of course, we know that females tend to report anxiety more willingly, more readily. Okay. Let's move along now into the neurological explanation. So, the major component of the human brain that is responsible for regulating fear or a fear response, it comes from the amygdala, okay, which is a component of the limbic system. I'm not going to go through all of this and read it all to you because I don't want to do that, because you are more than capable of reading. All right, but the amygdala is the essentially the fear response in our brain, that the component of our brain that regulates or recognizes fear. Okay. Physiological symptoms, so that's the symptoms. Physiological means the symptoms that are within our body, yeah. The things that we might, it's more than just a something that's happening in our brain. It's actually a whole body experience as well. So when our amygdala perceives a danger, it sends a signal to the hypothalamus, which then triggers the sympathetic nervous system. All right, the sympathetic nervous system essentially provides us with either a big surge of cortisol, it might be a stress hormone, and it prepares us essentially for the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn action or response. Okay. Now, some of the things that the sympathetic nervous system, and you would have, you will know these things if you've ever experienced anxiety or fear, increased heart rate, dilation of the airways, increased blood flow to your muscles, etc., etc. Alrighty. One of the significant things is that sick nausea feeling that is often commonly associated with anxiety, and that is because of the decreased blood flow to the stomach. The stomach's not ready to be digesting food. It's the last thing it wants to do at that stage when it feels afraid is to be digesting food, hence the decrease in blood flow, and then hence the nausea. Psychological symptoms are commonly associated excessive worry. Okay, we all worry about things from time to time. But this is different. An anxiety disorder means that excessive worry. Okay, some people it manifests with irritability, restlessness, feeling on edge. Commonly reported as racing thoughts. Many people report difficulty being able to concentrate. Often, of course, that then interferes with their work or their school. Feelings of fatigue, tiredness. Of course, it interrupts our sleep cycle, which then it's vicious. It's actually a bit of a vicious cycle because if it interrupts our sleep, lack of sleep can actually lead to more anxiety. Panic attacks, which I spoke about a little bit. Already. People often avoid, they want to avoid whatever it is that is causing the anxiety. Unhelpful self-talk, notice that I'm using the word unhelpful as opposed to the word negative. Okay, ACT, acceptance commitment therapy, does not use positive and negative, okay, because it's essentially it's a nasty type label we put on particular behaviors, and we don't need to do that, but rather unhelpful. Okay, self-talk, and of course hypervigilance. Okay, an ACT perspective on anxiety. So ACT differs a little from cognitive behavior. It's born out of cognitive behavior therapy. It is a third wave psychotherapy in the cognitive behavior tradition. Okay, but it has some very significant differences compared to your cognitive behavior. Many psychologists or GPs might go down the cognitive behavior route, and that's fine. Cognitive behavior is a evidence-based form of psychotherapy. ACT is a little different, and I find it ACT a lot kinder. All right, and I'm going to break that open a little bit more with you shortly. So let's have a look at an ACT perspective on anxiety. So first of all, ACT recognises that anxiety is a natural and common human experience. It's the mind's way of alerting us to potential threats. Okay, essentially, our mind is trying to keep us safe by keeping us anxious, essentially. All right, rather than seeing anxiety as something to be eliminated, the aim is to change our relationship with anxiety. Okay, we can learn to notice and accept these anxious thoughts and feelings without judgment or resistance. And that's the whole acceptance component to ACT. Okay, and ACT is very much one of the most significant experiences in ACT is mindfulness. And if we notice that statement, we can learn to notice. Okay, noticing is being mindful. All right. By acknowledging and making room for these thoughts, we can then reduce the struggle that often we find ourselves drawn into. Okay. So the goal, according to ACT, is not to just get rid of anxiety, but to change our relationship with it. Okay, the next statement talks a little bit about mindfulness, and then, of course, it's the committed action. So, committed action can be a range of, like smart goal setting, or it could be particular actions that we want to commit to that are in line with our values. Okay, so hence the acceptance and commitment component to this this form of therapy. So through mindfulness practices and committed action, we work on clarifying our values and taking steps towards the life we want to live, even if anxiety is present for us. Okay. ACT helps individuals build what we term psychological flexibility. All right, which is a key component to ACT, allowing people to move forward in life with greater clarity, purpose, and well-being, and a changed relationship that they might have with their anxiety. You may be very familiar with the ACT hexaflex. Essentially, these are the 6 core processes associated with ACT. All right, so acceptance, self as context, values, contact with the present moment, committed action, and diffusion, which I'm going to break open all of these shortly. So the 6 core processes. Okay, let's have a look at what this contacting the present moment refers to. Okay, it's consciously connecting with whatever is happening right here and right now. So contacting the present moment is very much about being deeply present, being deeply mindful, and noticing. Okay, really simple bite-size little strategy you could offer is helping a child or a young person. I do this technique with teenagers as well, is the 5 senses mindfulness. Okay, 5 things we can see, 4 things we can feel. So what is our body actually touching? So for example, I can feel that I am sitting in this chair. I can feel my feet in my shoes. Okay, notice it's not referring to how what I'm feeling in terms of psychologically. So, for example, in terms of emotions. So, 5 things we can see, 4 things we can feel, 3 things we can hear, 2 things we can smell, 1 thing we can taste. And that is a really great way to introduce this contacting the present moment, this being mindful. Because if we jump into telling particularly teenagers that we're going to do mindfulness, you can see their eyes start to glass over and we've lost them straight away. Okay, because they often come with experiences of mindfulness that might not have been so great. So, for example, they might associate it with meditating. Meditating is great, but we're not necessarily trying to do meditation with young people, right? Also, sometimes young people might report to me, "Oh, we lay on the ground and pretty much played sleeping logs." That's not mindfulness. Okay, so often young people come with these experiences. Which might not be so great with regards to mindfulness. Okay, let's have a look. Some other cool ways we can contact the present moment, various breathing strategies, all right, focusing on the breath, bringing our awareness to the breath. There is 101 breathing strategies that you can have a look at. Simply Google breathing strategies. Okay, another really common one is the triangle breathing for little people, and for bigger people is the square breathing. A range of other strategies are which engage the senses are on this slide, allowing young people to experience their senses because the senses are always guaranteed to be in the present moment. Okay, so there are 6 core processes in ACT. We know that. The next one is diffusion. How do we diffuse? Diffusion essentially means detaching or stepping back from unhelpful thoughts, worries, and memories. Okay, if you think about welding 2 pieces of metal together, yeah, they are fused together, and we can pull those 2 bits of metal and they're probably not going to budge because they're fused together. Yeah, diffusion is about essentially is about loosening up that relationship that we might have with our unhelpful thoughts. Okay, now I've just got a couple of diffusion strategies here. Okay, this is just 3 I'm going to run you through. Remember, it's bite size. Okay. There are lots more diffusion strategies. Please just Google or have a bit of a read around some of the cool books with to do with acceptance commitment therapy. There's a lot of great work out there. So first one, writing our thoughts down. Okay, seeing our thoughts for what they are. So if I'm saying to myself, if my mind tells me not to go and hang out with a group of people because I'm a loser, or I'm no good, or they might laugh at me. Okay, well that's my mind giving me a whole lot of unhelpful information. Okay, it's not good or bad, it's not positive or negative, it's probably not terribly helpful though. All right, can you see the difference between, of course, helpful and unhelpful, good and bad, positive and negative? With ACT, we don't use absolute, such as good and bad, positive and negative, because it puts a nasty label on things and makes them, on our thoughts in particular, and makes them more important than they actually need to be. Okay, so so if I wanted to diffuse from a thought such as I'm a loser, or I'm no good, or they might laugh at me, or I'm no good at maths or reading, or whatever it might be, write the thought down. Okay, see it for what it is. Ask the young person to see it for what it is and get them to name what it is. Okay, they'll look at you a bit funny. They'll go, well, what do you mean, what it is? And they'll say, well, it's words on a page. Yep. What else is it? Letters on a page. Yep. What else is it? Well, it's made up of ink, or if they're writing with a pen, yep. So it's made up of ink. Or if it's a crayon they're using, it's made up of crayon. Okay. What they're doing is they're seeing it for what it is, which is merely words, letters, crayon, ink on a page. And I had a little chap tell me that the ink was made up of atoms. So there you go. He was a clever little fellow, and he told me that it was made up of atoms, and he's spot on. All right, next one. We asked them to ask. We asked the young person, how helpful is it if we latch on? Okay, we're not saying you can't say these things. We're saying how helpful is it? Okay, if we were to latch on, how helpful is this thought? And often young people will say, they'll recognise, or adults, they'll recognise and they'll say, well, it's not terribly helpful. Okay. Or the next one is called lemon repetition. We get the young person, and I'm not going to demonstrate. I have demonstrated it in front of a group before. Felt like a bit of a wally, but doesn't matter. It was a little bit of a laugh. But essentially, lemon repetition is this. We say the unhelpful phrase or word for 30 seconds out loud, probably not in front of people, but you can if you want, if you're really brave. We say it out loud, and you'll see the phrase, the unhelpful phrase, or the unhelpful word start to lose its meaning. Okay, so instead of it might be lemon, 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 we say that 30 seconds, and you can feel yourself starting to lose the meaning of the word lemon. Well, what we're going to do here is we might put the word, for example, loser, 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 and it starts to lose its meaning, and we're bringing some gentle humor. And these are just 3 diffusion strategies. Okay, remember, we're not making fun of ourselves through the lemon repetition. We're not making fun of ourselves at all, but we are bringing a gentle humor to our experience. Okay, a major component to ACT is developing what's called acceptance, which is, of course, acceptance and commitment therapy. Okay, acceptance, a really good way of, or a really nice little metaphor, I guess. The cloud on the left, it's raining. I don't like rain. I wish it wasn't raining. My day would be better if it wasn't raining. I hate rain. My day is ruined, etc., etc. We can go about on that, or with a more accepting mindset. It's raining today. Yep, it is. Okay? So notice what we're doing is we're opening up, we're making room for the unpleasant experience, okay? But we're developing a greater acceptance to it. Okay, painful feelings, painful sensations. When we open up to them, we're opening up to what it means to be a human being. And I love the book, The Happiness Trap. Okay, The Happiness Trap, because we're often told that we have to be happy. Um, no, definitely not. That's not realistic. Okay, it's not realistic to be happy all of the time. And acceptance is about that. It's about the fact that we need to be able to have the flexibility to be able to move with a range of feelings, emotions, sensations. Okay, because they're all part of being human. Okay, I love this video clip. I won't play it, okay, because you can go and play this video clip for yourself. But have a look at this video clip. The unwelcome party guest. It is a fantastic metaphor for acceptance. Okay, it's on YouTube. I love this one. I use this all the time. I'm teaching about anxiety or helping young people through psychoeducation, helping them in the therapy session understand more about acceptance, particularly when it comes down to acceptance of our anxiety. Okay, so this next process of ACT is very much about values, and it is critical to the ACT experience. Yeah. So values are what we want in our life, what we want our life to be about, what we value deep in our heart. Okay. The sort of stuff we're prepared to go to the wall for. Okay. What you want to do with your time, what ultimately matters, what you would like to be remembered for. Okay. And when we break open this experience with young people, our values help guide us towards what is meaningful. Okay, and young people understand that. Well, particularly when we break this open, they understand the concept of leaning on their values. So, for example, they might say, "Well, it's my values. I really like the comfort and the love and the friendship that my mates and my family provide for me." And then they realize just how important that is. Even if they're experiencing anxiety, might be social anxiety, they do recognize that friendship, love, being connected with other people is deeply, deeply important to them. It's one of their values. Okay. And then, of course, we would help with the commitment side of things. So, what would that look like if we committed to spending more time with these particular people, connecting more with people because it is so much in line with your values? This particular diagram, by the way, it's called the bullseye, and it's a really cool activity. You can find that online again. Okay, so if you Google ACT bullseye values, something like that, perhaps, but it gives young people a great perspective on the four major areas that are often very important to them: leisure, work, education, personal growth and health, and of course their relationships. Right. Okay, the observing self. So I love this concept. We often think that our brain just does thinking, and of course it does. You know, we are thinking always about stuff, always where our mind is thinking. Yeah, but as an ACT actually teaches us that there are two components to our mind, and that is the thinking self. So the self that loves to analyze and plan and think about, you know, really deep and meaningful things. And then there is the component which allows us to observe, and particularly observe our thinking. All right. So the observing self is what ACT calls it, and it's the part of us that is responsible for our own awareness and attention. And one of the cool strategies that I love to use with young people is the stop sign. Now, this actually is not, stop is not actually an ACT concept, all right? It's actually derived from DBT, which is a dialectical behavior therapy, all right? But young people just get this and it fits beautifully with the observing self, I think. Okay, so S, show young people the stop sign. What do we do when we get to a stop sign? We stop. If we roll through the stop sign, we haven't actually followed the rules of the stop sign. The stop sign needs us to stop. Okay, so it doesn't mean we continue to swing on our chair or chat with our mates or fiddle with a pencil or whatever it might be. We're going to physically stop. Okay, so that's the S component. T means this. Take a big breath. Just take a breath, yeah? O, we are going to observe. Right? We're going to observe what is happening in both our external environment, but also what's happening in our internal environments. And what I mean by that is what is happening within my body, what is happening for me. So it might be, I noticed that my breathing's increased. I'm noticing that I'm feeling really annoyed at the moment. I'm noticing I feel really triggered. I notice I've got a bit of a sore tummy, it might be, or I'm feeling that pain, those butterflies perhaps in my tummy, right? Particularly if it's anxiety. Okay, I notice my fingertips are feeling a bit tingly. You know, we're helping the young person name, recognize, observe everything that's happening for them. Now, don't rush the process. Okay, and then P stands for plan and proceed. Plan and proceed with a wise action. Okay, and the concept of wise mind, that is a DBT concept. Okay, committed action. So, of course, acceptance and commitment therapy, all right, obviously has the component which is committed action. Okay, so it means taking action that is guided by our values, doing what matters, doing what is meaningful, even if it's uncomfortable. Okay, now, not every one of our actions that is meaningful might feel nice. So, for example, um, cleaning. Cleaning doesn't necessarily feel nice. Okay, you get hot and sweaty, and it's a bit of a chore, um, but it's still important. It's still meaningful. Okay, it might be meaningful for people. Um, Notice that homework doesn't necessarily feel good. It's not about feeling good, okay, all the time. That's not possible. That's the happiness trap. It's about committing to knowing that homework is meaningful because it might be in line with our values. Our values might be, well, I've really valued learning, or I want to go to do further study, or whatever it might be. Well, to get there, I'm going to need homework. Okay, for example, that is, by the way. Okay, now committing to action. There's a number of ways we can help young people commit to various actions. Okay, but one of the easiest ways I find is the SMART goal setting. Okay. Okay. Setting your goal, make it specific, make it measurable. How are we going to be able to quantify perhaps this? How are we going to know if we've achieved our goal? Can we quantify it? Can we measure it? Is our goal going to be achievable? Okay. Is it relevant to us? And what sort of um, time constraints we're going to put around our goal setting? All right, or this particular goal that we want to achieve. Smart goal setting is just one way of looking at the committed of helping young people commit to meaningful life events. Yeah. Okay. This is an ACT quotation. Freedom is realizing that we are not our thoughts. Our thoughts are allowed to come and go. Okay, and we don't actually need to play this game of tug of war with them. That's an ACT concept as well. This idea that somehow we have to grapple with them and start to name where our thoughts might, or label rather, as cognitive behavior wants us to do, label the types of thoughts that we're having under neat little categories. I find that too hard basket. All right. We don't need to put so much emphasis on thoughts because they're just thoughts. Okay. Please forward me any questions if you have anything that you'd like to ask. If you'd like any support, please feel free to email me. Thank you so much for tuning in. Again, remember bite size. That's what the purpose of today was. It wasn't supposed to be a big elaborate presentation with regards to anxiety and the ins and outs of acceptance commitment. It's just a bite size opportunity for us to maybe practice a few of the skills, get a bit familiar with how they work, and check them out with your young people. Your young people will soon let you know what works and what doesn't. Okay. And lastly, I've attached a certificate for you, 30 minutes CPD. Thank you again so much for being with us, and we'll see you next time.